Good evening, boys and girls. I know that many of you have possibly seen in the packet about this week's Hastings history, but I wanted to share the Blizzard story if you have not, and also I'm going to share about a grasshopper invasion. So we'll go ahead and start with the Blizzard story. Okay. Oh, maybe. I don't know if I can make it large. First time doing this. Okay. Let's just go like this. So, this blizzard happened on Easter Sunday, which the crazy thing is, we actually had a small blizzard on Easter Sunday. The Easter blizzard of 1873. So you can go ahead and look at my screen, the picture, as I read the story to you. So it was Easter Sunday, April 13th, 1873. Without doubt, one of the most terrific blizzards which ever swept over the prairies occurred in 1873 and became known as the Easter blizzard. Easter Sunday, April 13th, 1873, the day dawned beautiful and clear, with hardly a cloud in the sky. Along in the afternoon, clouds began to gather and rain started to fall. So it was a beautiful day, and then all of a sudden, in the afternoon, the sky got cloudy and rain started falling, which it's springtime. That night, the rain turned to snow, increasing in severity until by morning it had grown to a wild fury driven by strong winds. I'm sorry, my light keeps flashing. Well, I guess it kind of fits in. Easter Sunday, we were without power and had the same thing happening. That late in the season, many families had not prepared a large supply of fuel, meaning that they had not prepared all of their food and they didn't have things ready for a blizzard. The harsh wind drove snow through every crack. In many cases, an entire family got into one bed, huddling to keep them warm. Because think of their houses. They were not, most of them were sod houses, if they had them, or as you can see in this picture, a wagon. It was next to impossible for the settlers to reach their stables during the blizzard of 1873. So many of them were on the trail traveling. Animals suffered greatly. Animals, they could not get them into the stable or the barn. In many cases, the farm livestock, cows, pigs, horses, and chickens were brought into the farm houses. So they brought their livestock into their house. The stories of tragedy that resulted from the Easter storm of 1873 were many. This is a true story taken from the pages of the Hastings Democrat, which was an early newspaper. So here's a little story. A farmer returning to his home was overtaken by the blizzard of 1873 and sought refuge in the home of a neighbor. So he went to a neighbor's house and he was able to stay at his neighbor's. But when he did not return home that night, his wife wrapped her baby in a heavy shawl and went looking for him. When the husband finally did reach home, he found his wife and baby gone and thought they were probably at the home of one of the neighbors. He hurried to every dwelling in the vicinity and did not find them. Finding no trace of his loved one, the husband organized a search party. The mother and child were found dead and frozen, stiff, not a great distance from their own doorway. And that was actually a story, like I said, from one of the first newspapers. So, a crazy Easter Sunday blizzard. And right here, you've probably, maybe when you've been driving around, you have seen these historical markers. This historical marker is at Lady Bird Lake, 1 1/4 miles east of Burwell, which is in Nebraska, on Highway 91 and 11, Garfield County in Nebraska. And it tells the little story of Easter Blizzard Sunday that happened in Nebraska, which actually happened in Adams County and Hastings. Okay, the next story I have, the Grasshopper invasion. So this happened in 1874, 1 year later. One of many grasshopper invasions in this part of Nebraska came on a memorable day in 1874. The John Gordon family had left Hastings with a team and wagon to go to the Little Blue River to gather the plentiful wild grapes. During the trip, Mrs. Gordon became nervous over the appearance of an approaching storm cloud. It proved to be a cloud, all right, but it was a cloud of grasshoppers. The father immediately turned the wagon toward home. Mr. Gordon could scarcely drive his team through the thickly whirling insects. The grasshoppers were everywhere. The family was finally able to make it home safely. But even when home, the Gordon family found they were not safe from the grasshoppers. The insects got into the house. They devoured the leather covers of the Gordon family Bible. They chewed great holes in the curtains. They ate everything that could be eaten, it seemed, inside the house and outside of the house. The grasshoppers left suddenly the next day, but not before doing serious damage to many crops. The corn crops were ruined, and the Gordon children lost their big patch of watermelons. The children recalled in later years how the grasshoppers had eaten all the green parts of the watermelons and left the red inside. After the grasshoppers raided their watermelon patch, there appeared to be a field full of red globes because the grasshoppers had eaten all of the green part and left the red, which we like the red and would leave the green. The family turnip patch had also been thickly covered with straw. The grasshoppers dug down through the straw covering and devoured the turnips in the ground, leaving hollowed out holes in the earth because turnips grow underground. So the grasshoppers devoured the turnips and left holes in the ground. That was one family's adventure with the hordes of grasshoppers, which appeared in Adams County in 1874 and did so much damage. In fact, following the grasshopper invasion, many people moved out of Adams County, declaring they could put up with the weather, but not with the grasshoppers. So 2 stories, the Easter Sunday blizzard of 1873 and the grasshopper invasion of 1874. Thank you for joining in. Have a good night.